Well, we have two teams that are in the Final Four for San Antonio on this Elite Eight Saturday night of the men's 2025 NCAA Tournament. I am merely TJ Rives. He is Jason Powers, my wingman. We are back on college basketball coast to coast on the live platforms on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter X, and also if you're hearing us as well on TuneIn, etc. Podcast form, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. Thank you for finding us. We now know that the Florida Gators have won the West Regional Rallying. Great comeback, Jason Powers, to beat Texas Tech and Duke tonight. Too much for the other SEC team, Alabama, just stifling them. Duke looks the part of being the national champion. Can anybody take them down? We're ready to talk all about it. We're here to break it down. We've got many guests that are going to be popping in. Jason gets first dibs, my wingman here in the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area in Florida. We are in Gator country. After all, good to be with you. Some opening thoughts from you on the Duke win and the Florida win.
You made a great point about the defense of Duke. I mean, just a complete team. They got size, they got length, they've got offense, and they've got a pretty good defense and a good coach. So they are going to be the four guys in double figures tonight. I mean, Kneppel was excellent. Flag didn't have to carry the load. They got options, in whether it's in the post, on the perimeter, whatever it is. And as for Florida, Walter Clayton showing why he's an All-American. And again, Texas Tech will rue the day that they couldn't make two front ends of 1-and-1s. I mean, just you hate to say it. It comes down just to the little things like that. They had two opportunities. And what do they win the game? We don't know. But there's way more pressure on Florida if they're down 3 possessions, if they at least make one of those 2 free throws in both those situations.
We will talk more about how much was it a meltdown by Texas Tech. It's the same thing we talked about on Thursday night. How much was it a meltdown by Arkansas? How much do you credit Texas Tech? Now it's role reversal. How much do you credit Florida versus the meltdown by the Red Raiders? We'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. Again, I will tell you up front here on College Basketball Coast to Coast on the live show, I will go to a recorded interview from earlier tonight with T.C. Martin of the T.C. Martin Show, our mutual buddy, Jason, who's out in the West. He was in the Chase Center in San Francisco right there and watched that Florida comeback better than you and me. We'll hear from him in a couple of moments. So let's back up to what just ended with Duke and Alabama. It's easy to say this right now, but this just looked like, with how much Alabama reined in the threes the other night, how good Duke looks 1-9 in their roster. This just looked like a bad matchup. And throughout the first half, I was sending you messages, others messages, that this just looked like men and boys. And it was a matter of how much are they going to win by? And in the end, they won by almost 20. All right, your thoughts on Duke going back to the Final Four?
Here's the difference. Duke has an inside game. Alabama has no inside presence to where they can dump the ball in and rely on 2-point field goals. They're either going to live and die by the 3-point shot today. I think 8 of 32 from the 3-point line. They just, and hate to say it, they played their A-perfect, A-plus game 2 nights ago. And just by analytics and by statistics, they are going to regress back to the mean, and they did not shoot the ball really well tonight. I think a lot of that was to Duke's credit defensively, and Alabama defensively, they've struggled all year, and they had no answer for just the Cooper Flag element, plus the ability for them to utilize Malawach on the lobs. So many times he just had uncontested dunks on the lobs because of how much attention Flag draws when he gets inside the lane.
And the amazing thing is that Flag and Malawach and Kneppel are all freshmen. It's scary. You could say it now. They're not freshmen at this point. With as many games as they played, they've won an ACC tournament championship. They've now played 4 NCAA tournament games. They play like a veteran team, these young guys. Heads up plays, help defense, make the right decision on go to the basket versus throwing the lob. They don't play like freshmen, Jason. Just follow up.
No, you're right. And with as much AAU ball as these guys play, and Duke plays we think Duke is an up and down team, but they play pretty structured. They have a lot of good concepts on offense. They get everybody involved. They get guys shots. The Sion James kid, he's a perfect number 4 guy, perfect kind of glue guy, does some of the dirty work. Kneppel, he's a perfect number 2 or number 3 guy for them to supplement what Proctor and what Flag can do. And then you got the big man in the middle. How many shots does this guy alter? I mean, he's not a great skilled offensive player, but he's a wide body. He rebounds. He plays smart. He doesn't foul a whole lot. So, again, they got the full package. They are going to be a tough out.
Kneppel 21 officially, 17 for Tyrese Proctor. He's really played well in this tournament. He's one of the old men. He's a senior as the point guard leader. 17 for him, 16 for Cooper Flagg in the final analysis to go along with 9 rebounds in the game. You look at every measurement. Duke shot 54%. Alabama shot 35%, including just 8 of 32 from three-point range. Duke out-rebounded them. Duke had more turnovers than John Shire would have wanted, but it didn't matter. They won by 20 tonight in that matchup. Again, we're live here on College Basketball Coast to Coast. Let's segue to the Florida win in San Francisco. We'll hear from T.C. Martin in a couple of moments, who was there in the arena. Florida was in trouble, clearly.
Big trouble.
Texas Tech putting it on them. And then how and why, in your mind, did they turn it around, Florida, in the final 5 minutes of the game?
Thomas Houck made 2 of the biggest threes of his life. Back-to-back possessions. They were down 9. Clayton found Houck on the first one, made 3. He hit 2 in a row to get him back from 9 to 3 after that timeout. And then you saw the missed free throws. I mean, and then Walter Clayton, when they got within 4 points, Walter Clayton took the game over. The play where he was in the middle of the lane, basically took 3 dribbles out to the line. Didn't even look like he looked at the rim when he hoisted the 3-point shot. I mean, it was like a turnaround 3.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. And he's just a
total playground move, but it worked out, and they just made shots.
Plays.
And you've got to give them credit. How much do you also look at Texas Tech, and TC's going to bring this up, and say, not only did they get rattled, maybe they ran out of gas a little bit at the end of the game after the overtime game Thursday night. Do you buy that, Jason Powers?
I mean, those guys played a lot of minutes. I mean, he ran those the primary guys. They did get the one guy back today, Chase McMillan, who they weren't expecting to play, so that helped the minutes distribution a little bit. But yeah, I mean, how many times did Williams back down in the low post? That takes a lot of energy every time you back a guy down the low post and bang, 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 and then do the turnaround jumper. I mean, so I think they were fatigued a little bit. And let's talk about the hidden stat in this game. How about Florida's free throw shooting? They came into the game 183rd in the country in free throw percentage. And what'd they go? 25 of 27 tonight?
25 of 27. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they made either 8 in a row or 10 in a row late in the game. And
they were 19 for 19 to start the game. Yeah, 19 for 19 to start.
That's how you survive in advance. And again, you touched on it. The 2 front ends of the 1-and-1s. I know our colleague Matt Zemek will be here in a little bit. He talks Free Throw Awareness Month, that March is Free Throw Awareness Month, and that burnt ends, missed front ends of the 1-and-1 will kill you. They had 2 of them, Texas Tech, in the final 3 minutes of the game.
And 2 of their best 2 players.
Yeah,
Williams and Toppin. I mean, they're not great. I mean, Williams is a good free throw shooter, but I know Toppin's not great. And I don't think they were even trying to foul. The first foul by Hawk at midcourt, he wasn't trying to foul. He just kind of ran up his back on accident, fouled him. They weren't even. I don't think that was not an intentional foul at all. I don't think that was the case at all. So they got fortunate. Williams missed the front end, and then they did foul Toppin when he got the rebound or whatever, and on the second one. But you have to make those front ends. You don't have to make them both, because they were up 6. If you make one of them, you're up 3 possessions now, and that changes Florida's strategy.
Amen. And it opened the door for Florida to go and gun in the 3. So as you see on the screen, if you're with us on video, it's the first Florida Final Four since 2014. They were regularly in the Final Four in the 2000s and the early 2010s, but they have not been there in 11 years. Todd Golden gets them there. That's interesting. So they are there. Duke is there for the 18th time, by the way. This is the first time since 2022. 18 Final Fours for Duke. So the Blue Devils are back. All right, again, we rock on college basketball coast to coast. Jason, stand by. Let's go to an interview from just earlier this evening at the conclusion of the Florida tremendous comeback over Texas Tech. Our colleague T.C. Martin of the T.C. Martin Show was inside the Chase Center in San Francisco to watch the West Regional Final. Let's get his thoughts what TC saw, how much is it a collapse by Texas Tech? How much of it is the Gator comeback and crediting them? And I get TC's thoughts as well on the Gators being in the Final Four. Let's go to that conversation right now. Doctor, you were right there for the Florida Gator comeback. Was it a Texas Tech collapse? We're kind of debating. What's your take from the Chase Center on what we saw earlier tonight as Florida goes to the Final Four?
I think you got to give all the credit in the world to the Gators because much like on Thursday night when we were going to leave Texas Tech for dead, I think the Gators were left for dead with about 3 minutes to go in this contest. But, they got a couple big threes from Houck, and then Clayton came back to do his thing. And just like that, you got 4 threes within about a minute and 10 seconds. And next thing you know, the Gators are cutting down the nets here at the Chase Center in San Francisco and ready to go to San Antonio coming up on Saturday.
And another thing we know is fundamentals. Texas Tech missing 2 front ends of the 1-and-1. And just like the doctor, Florida 25 of 27 from the foul line. That's how you survive and advance, right?
Absolutely correct. Making your free throws. And again, what I saw from Texas Tech tonight and that beautiful comeback that they had on Thursday, you just kind of felt like maybe they're going to be a little bit gassed because, basically you had Toppin, you had Williams, you had Hawkins, all those guys played 40 plus minutes in that overtime game. And it seemed like they did seem to wilt a little bit in the final, 5 minutes or so of this game. But you just gave Florida a little bit of an open door and they cracked it down. But it did look meek for the Gators, like it looked meek for Texas Tech 2 nights earlier. It just goes to show you how quickly things can change and with the rides of emotion. And I'll tell you, it was a predominantly Gator crowd here in San Francisco today. And those Gator fans really willed them, to the victory. But, like you said, TJ, 25 for 27 the free throw line. And when you have the right guys going to the free throw line too, when you have, guys like Clayton and Richard and Martin, that's who you want the ball in their hands at the end of games. And remember, they weren't in the double bonus at any point in time. They had to make those 1-and-1s. And like you pointed out, with Toppin and Williams missing the front end, those are game changers right there. And those are literally, 4 and 5 point swings.
I know the doctor's with me for another couple of moments. You have a relationship with Todd Golden when he was the San Francisco coach. How great a coaching job is this? They win the SEC tournament. They're going to the Final Four.
Yeah, really happy for Todd. And again, this was kind of a homecoming for him, being in San Francisco, coaching USF. And again, the success that he had at USF for those years propelled him to get the Gator job. And, all sincerity. And we talk about this, when he left San Francisco, it's like, wow, this is a big task. And, hopefully you'll be able to do well with it. And, I'm a little bit surprised. And if he's honest with you, he's a little bit surprised as well, but very, very confident. He got himself some great players, inherited some great players. He's done a really good job of recruiting and working the transfer portal the last couple of years. So I am extremely happy for him to get the job done. And again, when you have, guys like Walter Clayton Jr. and Elijah Martin on your team, and as we talked about it every year, TJ, when we're at the Final Four in the championship games, right? What wins championships for you? It's the guard play, being able to knock down shots, take care of the basketball in crunch time, and then convert your free throws, hit big shots. And, that was the story tonight for the Gators.
Okay, one more, the final one. They're headed to the Final Four. You saw them up close for these 2 games, and you've been watching all these other teams like an Auburn, like a Houston, like a Duke, Alabama, Michigan State, the whole mix. Is Florida a legit contender to win the whole thing from what you saw with your eyeballs in San Francisco?
I still think they have some flaws, especially up front. And the big physical teams, like specifically Houston and maybe even Auburn, they're going to give Florida some trouble. And your guards are the key. There's no doubt about it. But you have to get production from your bigs inside, and they are very inconsistent and they are soft. And plain and simple, they've got the size, but again, they wore down a tired Texas Tech team, and Florida has a slightly deeper bench, but they're going to need to get better production from the guards, right now. So right now, I think, they're a little bit lucky to escape, but, credit their will to win and the guard play and hitting the free throws that they got. And Houck, too. Houck does not, this kid doesn't even average 10 points per game, but he came up big tonight, with the rebounds as well, too, and did a fairly good job on Williams as well, too. So, I would just say a little pause for concern. In my opinion, right now, Houston, Duke look like the top two teams. But watch out for Florida. Watch out for Auburn. We'll see what happens there. But we know one team has got their ticket punched, and they're going to be joining us in San Antonio,
There you
my
go.
friend. That's the Florida Gators.
You can't win the whole thing if you're not there. They are there. You will be
Right.
there. I will be there. I look forward to being with you in San Antonio. Thank you, TC Martin of the TC Martin Show from San Fran with the intel. We appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Again, TC Martin joining us earlier in the night tonight from San Francisco. TC based out of Las Vegas. We know him well. And all right, so I'll put the same question to you. We don't know, but we're about to see Florida get the opportunity at either Auburn or Michigan State. More on that game a little later. But is this Gator team a team that can win two more in your mind, or are they flawed, especially on the defensive end, where this is about as far as they go? What's your assessment, Jason?
I think they can win it. I think they can. Can they beat Duke? I think Duke's the one other team that can beat them, but I think they have the guard play to do it. They need some more production out of Will Richard, in my view. I think Martin's playing pretty good. We know Clayton's playing great. We need Will Richard to produce a little bit more. And Condon, he had the ankle injury in the Sweet 16 game. One thing I love about the Florida Bigs, they provide opportunities to keep possession. They hustle, man. Houck, the Patrick on one U guy, Chinyulu. I mean, they're hustlers,
yes.
man. They're hustlers, man, and they keep balls alive. I mean, how many offensive rebounds did they have today, and how many times did they get 2 and 3 opportunities? I know Texas Tech was undersized, but they're going to need every bit of that size against Auburn, who they've played twice this year. And obviously, if they were to match up with a Duke or a Houston, potentially, that size and that beef is what they need. And I think they got enough of it. They got enough rotational guys on the front line. I think they can outscore some teams. And when you got Clayton at the end, he's as good as there is in the country as far as being a closer.
Again, Jason Powers hanging here with me as we're recapping these games. Our colleague Matt Zemek, great college basketball historian, national writer, College Wire on the USA Today website, family of websites. He will be with us in a few minutes with some analysis on Florida and Duke making it. 2 more pieces to go. That is the Midwest Regional up first tomorrow. Houston, the top seed. Tennessee, the 2 seed. Same thing, the top 2 seeds in Atlanta. Auburn, the 1. Michigan State, the 2 in the South Regional. Those 2 teams will join Duke and Florida. While we have a moment as well, let's tell you about one of our sponsors, Ticket Smarter and the Ticket Smarter mobile app. As we do this here on college basketball coast to coast, if you're seeing us, you see the graphic on the screen. These 2 games still left in Indianapolis and in Atlanta. Tough ticket in Atlanta for sure. Not as tough, Jason Powers, as if Kentucky or Purdue was in the regional final in the massive Lucas Oil Stadium. So it's more of a buyer's market if you're in Indy. But in Atlanta, my God, what a tough ticket with all the Auburn fans coming. Use Ticket Smarter. Use the Ticket Smarter mobile app. Best prices on the secondary market. Purchase safe and secure. Takes 2 or 3 minutes to sign up. Use our promo code COAST20. COAST20 gets $20 off your order. You're not going to get 2 tickets for under $300 in the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Use COAST20 to help you out on Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. And I'll say this, the better seats in Indianapolis for the Houston fans and the Tennessee fans. You were joking on Friday night that a whole bunch of the Volunteer State, especially East Tennessee, could make that drive Saturday night, Sunday to be there. The Vols have never been in the Final Four, so it's a tough ticket, probably for the better seats. So use Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app to compare, and use our promo code COAST20. Use that code as much as you want, including the Final Four. Gator fans that are watching this show, if you're San Antonio bound Gator fans, use that promo code. Duke fans, same thing. Use the promo code COAST20. Use it as much as you want through the Final Four, the start of the baseball season, the hockey playoffs, concerts, NBA playoffs, any of it. Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app, promo code COAST20. You and I go back to Duke, and the stat that I gave, they've now made their 18th men's Final Four, first time since 2022. How about the fact that for most of these guys, if you're doing the calculating, they were either a freshman or not in high school, depending. For Cooper Flagg, Khan Kneppel and Malawach. It's crazy. Malawach out of South Sudan and the North African Developmental Program for the NBA and college basketball.
Right.
Crazy that they have been brought in along with Proctor, along with Sion James, who are older players in and around this Duke team. Kneppel brought in, Flagg brought in, Malawach brought in, and they look like a veteran team with the way that they play. That's the takeaway for those that are just joining us.
I agree.
Right now. Scary that those guys, this is their first year of college basketball and how veteran they look.
Do you get the thought process now that Alabama, will they change their style of play a little bit, do you think? Or do you think Nate Oates is just going to continue to play this style of play where it's threes and layups and nothing else? And especially on the defensive end of the floor, you got to play better defense if you're Alabama throughout the – I mean, I know it's run and gun. I get it. And you're thinking you're going to beat people by volume of shots and possessions. But at some point, you got to play some better defense, more strategic – functional defense.
There's the key, and they seduce you into playing how they want to play and bombing the threes. Tonight, their threes were not falling where they were on Thursday. But here's what's tough to argue with, and you know this. They won an SEC tournament a couple of years ago in Tampa playing this way and got in the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed and got to the Sweet 16, and San Diego State beat them. All right, so last year they're a little more of an underdog, but they go all the way to the Final Four playing this way. Now they have a really good year in the SEC again. They didn't win the regular season, but they did beat Auburn at the end of the regular season. They got into the semifinals of the SEC tournament. They win 3 games in this tournament. It is tough to argue with the success, but I think if you are criticizing, I think you can make the argument there's only so far in the NCAA tournament, in the big dance, that you're going to go playing this way if you do not defend better and if you can't win by scoring some of the time in the mid-range at 2.
70.
Yes. Mid-range game has got to be there a little. But tonight, I mean, again, we may look back on this in about 10 days when it's all over, 10, 11 days, and say nobody was going to beat Duke anyway, Jason.
Right.
By that, we may be looking at that right now.
I think Duke's still going to have a game to play. I think Auburn's going to give them all if they were to see Auburn. But again, you make a great point. Duke is just, the maturity of those freshmen are just what's very impressive to me. Kneppel, they don't play scared. They don't play like they've not been in this moment before. All those guys, and they play together very well. There's not the hero ball where you would think if anybody would want to do it, Flagg would have the green light to say, get out of the way, I'm going to shoot. But he doesn't seem to do that. He seems to always make the right pass. A lot of resemblances mentally of a guy like Larry Bird. Again, he's more physical and more athletic than Larry, but makes the right pass, rebounds, block shots. I mean, he's not afraid to get in there and, how about the play? I mean, you would think that when Grant Nelson blocked his dunk attempt tonight, you would think that maybe get him flustered. Nope. He went down the court, played defense, kept contributing.
And you're right. And he made a couple of more big plays after that. What a block by Nelson. Yes. One of the defensive plays of the entire tournament to block that guy on the way to a tomahawk dunk and not foul him.
Yep.
But Duke was not rattled tonight. Again, they were too much for Alabama. The Tide began the game, 2 of 12, I think, from 3-point range. That's a far cry different from just the shooting gallery that it was in Newark on Thursday night with BYU. And tonight, a lot of that had to do with Duke. Duke guarding them in the transition, not giving them open looks. Not giving
first possession of the game, shot clock violation. First possession of the game, they held them. They threw up a desperation shot at the buzzer, air ball. I mean, so that just set the tone. And when your best player, I hate to say this too, when your best player scores 6 points, Mark Sears, you're not going to win the game.
And he was flustered and he was guarded as well throughout this game. So credit John Shire, the game plan they had over the last couple of days. By the way, you can give us some comments live on this Saturday night. My buddy Travis is watching us tonight. He is a Gator. He is smiling ear to ear about the Florida win. They're back in the Final Four for the first time in 11 years. Travis even says he wants Michigan State instead of Auburn. You may get your wish. Let's see. That's going to be a titanic showdown in the late game on Sunday. Lisa, by the way, is saying thank you. Lisa's in Memphis. She says thank you for the promo code. She's passing it along. Do that with Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. I don't pass up the opportunity to promote, Jason Powers. Let's promote again. Here's what we're talking about on the video screen. If you're just joining us, use Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. Use the code COAST20. This is good for the NCAA tournament, for the Elite Eight tomorrow, the Final Four, the women's Final Four that's coming to Tampa. Good for the start of the baseball season. Any events, concerts, whatever you want to do, COAST20 on Ticket Smarter with the promo code. Utilize it. I'm not passing up another promo opportunity, brother. It's right there for you.
That's a great promo. Again, you can use it for any entertainment activity that's out there. Anything.
If you want to see Barry Manilow at the Westgate in Las Vegas,
boom!
Pound Ticket Smarter and use the code COAST20. Like my man Powers. We wanted to see all the different shows. Did you see tonight? You saw Pitbull in concert in Vegas, what, about 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
2 weeks
2.5, 3 weeks ago, yep.
Pitbull is playing the Friday night concert in San Antonio, the huge open to the public concert.
There we go.
You are a Pitbull believer.
I expect to see you, TJ, in the front row with TC Martin Friday nights.
Oh, my God, if that is the case. All right, all great stuff. I need to bring Sanity back to the show. You know how we do that? We go to the West Coast Bureau Chief. He's based in Arizona, but he covers the college game, and we love him for it. Hello, Matt Zemek. Clean this up a little bit here on a Saturday night where Florida and Duke have advanced to the Final Four. Good to have you back with us. All right, thoughts. Give me thoughts first on Duke and what you saw against Alabama. Welcome, my friend.
Well, we talked about it after the Sweet 16, right? That, Alabama emptied the clip against BYU, and it just never seemed likely that Bama was going to make threes with the volume needed. It just doesn't ordinarily happen, right? That you go bonkers from 3-point range, 2 straight games, and of course, let's also simply say Duke's defense just a tiny bit tougher than BYU's defense.
Absolutely.
So, just going from a game in which everything goes right against a weaker opponent, and then you make that step up in weight class, it just wasn't the progression. And we were reminded that, a year ago, think about it. And this is something I didn't mention Thursday night, but should have. A year ago, Alabama had to play the max out game on the Thursday, game 1, to beat North Carolina, get, the number 1 seed out of the way, and then Alabama could play Clemson in the Elite Eight, and it didn't have to be absolutely spectacular in all facets. Well, this was just the inverse, that Alabama needed to play the max out game against the 1 seed. Right. Could have gotten by with an ugly game against BYU and still won. It just never seemed like the right way for Alabama to enter this game. If it had been a different set of circumstances, it might have been a different conversation. But really, in the end, Alabama needed to hit a ton of threes to win. And you need to, any Duke opponent, you're going to need to shoot the 3-pointer really well to have a chance. Didn't happen for Alabama. End of story.
Just to follow up on something Jason and I were talking about, want your opinion here. It is scary that, as we see on the screen, Kneppel had 21, Flag a pretty good game, not a great game. Malawach is such an athletic player above the rim at both ends. We have to remind ourselves those are 3 freshmen. How scary is this team with those 3 young guys leading it?
I really like the point both of you guys made just before I came on. These guys don't get rattled. They're freshmen, but they don't get rattled. What Jason was saying about Cooper Flag, so spot on. That, just move on to the next play. Don't worry about getting swatted, defend, rebound, be a good teammate, make winning plays. It's such an apt point by Jason that, these guys just move on to the next play. That they do play beyond their years. That's why Duke is definitely in this position. And hey, TJ, you're going to San Antonio next week. We can make those reservations right now. It's going to be Florida in game 1 at 6:09, so 5:09 in the Alamo City. And Duke's going to be in that late slot at 7:49. You can just lock it in right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt they will be in the late game just as they were tonight. Jason Powers, you got something for Matt Zemek, either on the Duke win or the Florida the Florida win as well. Go ahead.
I think an interesting part of this game was how Duke got ahead early. If you remember BYU and Alabama, they were making so many threes early. Alabama, the freedom that those guys get when you make a couple and you're up 7, 8, 10 points, where tonight it was completely flipped the script. Duke was up 8, 10 points within the first 3 minutes or so. So put a little more squeeze on the ball for Alabama, a little tighter on the shots, not as much freedom. Where I think if Alabama would have had the lead tonight, I think the flow of the game would have been a little different than it was, because they could never, ever get over the hump. They got within 5 or 6 a couple times early in the second half, but they could never get rid of that lead of 8, 9 points that Duke had virtually all night.
You know, Jason, what you said made me think of this, and I think this is pretty fascinating. On one half of the bracket, the Florida, Michigan State, Auburn half of the bracket, you have the teams that have been fooling around and they get behind and they trail. And then like Duke, Alabama, and also Tennessee, Houston, those are the teams that have been getting ahead. Now, Houston is a little bit particular in that Houston wobbles late. Houston will get that 10, 12-point lead and then will stumble trying to get to the finish line. Like that, this Houston team has felt the nerves. But generally, Duke, Bama, Houston, Tennessee, they've been the front runners. And on the other half of the bracket, Florida, Michigan State, and Auburn, it's the teams that stumble around for 25 minutes before finding the finishing kick. So it's going to be fascinating to see if these two halves of the bracket retain their personalities in terms of being front runners for one side and second half demons on the other.
And by the way, how about
inside of Matt Zemek here with us on a Saturday night? Jason Powers also hanging with me, TJ Rives. If you're just joining us live, we're talking about the Duke win. We're talking about the Florida win. We will talk more about the 2 games on Sunday a little bit later on. We're also efforting, Jason and Matt, to have Ari Russell join us when all of the post-game stuff is over, with press conferences and in the locker room where he does great work at the Prudential Center in Newark. We look forward to him joining us here in a little bit live on this Saturday. Jason, you had something else. Go ahead.
For you, TJ, I know you've been a proponent of this guy all year, John Shire. He tied, I think, the record, the most wins ever by a first year through 3 years of a first-time head coach. I think he tied Brad Stevens and one other guy tonight with his 89th win in his first 3 years at Duke. So I know you've been a big proponent of John Shire and the job he's done all year.
How do you go against what this guy has done?
2 Final Fours.
Well, yeah, they didn't get to the Final Four last year. Got to the Elite Eight. First Final Four for Duke since 2022.
Oh, right.
But, I mean, he's won a lot. They won the ACC tournament. And I thought it was interesting tonight what they were revealing, and Matt, get in here on this point too, which is that it haunted them how badly they played basically 52 weeks ago in the Elite Eight game with NC State, a team that, help me, Matt, NC State had also beaten them, I think, in the ACC tournament. Maybe I'm wrong, but clearly they were favored against the Wolfpack no matter what. And Shire's line to the CBS Turner crew was, that's the worst 13 minutes we played all year was in the Elite Eight game. And it made me really reassess the mental outlook of my team, the makeup of my team. And here we are 52 weeks later. They followed through. They beat Alabama. They surpassed what they did a year ago. What about that, Matt Zemek, on Shire and growing up some as the coach and using the loss in the Elite Eight game last year as the motivation?
You know, it's true that Cooper Flagg is special. He's generational. He's going to be a #1 draft pick. But you know what? We can compare this to, let's make that 2019 comparison, right? 2019, Duke gets to the Elite Eight as a 1 seed with a presumptive #1 pick in the draft. And that Duke team did not play the complete game against Tom Izzo and Michigan State in Washington, D.C. This team just took control, got ahead early, and was always in charge of this game. Alabama always second best. So it's definitely true that, hey, as special as Cooper Flagg is, you know, we've seen Duke teams with #1 picks, Coach K and Zion, not get it done. And so, you know, these freshmen do seem to be special, but like, yes, the coach definitely has something to do with that, right? When these players don't get rattled and it's a consistent, steady thing, you know, how many times have we seen in marches over the years? Great #1 seed runs up to the Elite Eight, and the Elite Eight is the most pressure-packed game of the year, far more than Monday night, the national championship game, because you play all year to get to the Final Four. Elite Eight pressure did not get to this team, and that is definitely a product of the head coach providing calm, reassuring leadership. We remember one more 2019 parallel, Virginia fully learning the lesson from UMBC the year prior, and Tony Bennett making the psychological adjustment with his team. So here we see John Shire making the psychological adjustment from that nightmarish Elite Eight against NC State 1 year ago.
Love it. Matt's with us for a few more moments here on this Saturday night. From a historical standpoint, 18 Final Fours for Duke now. First one since 2022. You cover the UCLA Bruins for UCLA Wire on the USA Today website. John Wooden and company, other coaches too, combined for 21 Final Fours. That's the all-time record. Duke with 18 of them. Interesting that you've got Shire as a first-time participant. You've got Todd Golden as a first-time participant.
Yep.
If Rick Barnes and Tennessee make it,
Right.
then it's a first-time participant. But then you've got Kelvin
whoa.
Sampson.
Whoa. Barnes made it in 2003.
Texas.
Yes.
That's right. Texas.
Yes. It would be Tennessee's first Final Four. That's the hook there.
Tennessee's first Final. My bad. So Barnes has been there. So now let me make the further point. So you got Shire. You got Todd Golden. Now the other four coaches have all been there. Rick Barnes, Kelvin Sampson there in 2021. That 2019 Final Four had Bruce Pearl and had Tom Izzo. That's his last Final Four.
And let's not forget Kelvin Sampson. Let's not forget Kelvin Sampson in 2002 with Hollis Price and E.B. Ara in Oklahoma.
Yes. How about that name? Pull that name out for the Oklahoma Sooners in the Final Four in Atlanta for that go around. But you got veteran coaches out of the other four teams that are playing in the games tomorrow, which is interesting. I'll prop another guy. I mean, Jason Powers, I know you're big on Sean Farnham. I am too. I know Sean personally from ESPN, and he's a former player with UCLA. Sean Farnham put this on social media tonight when Florida made the Final Four, that he was sitting on an interview with Jeff Goodman and the Field of 68 crew. They do a tremendous job on the online platforms. Farnham was sitting in New Orleans in April of 2022 when Todd Golden got hired by Florida. And he said to those guys, this guy's the real deal as a coach. I believe he can win a national title, and I believe it will happen within the next 6 years. I believe in the next 6 years he'll be in the Final Four and win a national title. And they laughed at him when he was saying that. And 3 years later, Todd Golden is in the Final Four with the Florida Gators. We'll bow to Sean Farnham of ESPN here tonight. He called it 3 years ago.
And another thing I didn't realize, Matt, I didn't realize Todd Golden played at St. Mary's. I didn't realize he was a player at St. Mary's.
For Randy Bennett, correct. Yes. Go ahead. Pick it up, West Coast Bureau Chief.
Well, I mean, it just shows that he learned from a master. And yet, Randy Bennett style basketball and Todd Golden style basketball are two very, very different things. So that reinforces that coaching is not so much playing a specific style. It's having complete knowledge and being able to implement any system for any roster, for any situation, knowing what works in certain contexts and knowing what works in others. St. Mary's destroyed the West Coast Conference each of the last 3 seasons, but then getting out of conference, the Gales' lack of elite athleticism gets exposed. So Bennett is a master at beating familiar opponents that are not several notches higher, but then what's been the struggle has been to beat those elite top tier teams. So Todd Golden had a front row seat for that. He was aware of that story. And why is Florida here? A lot of things, but really the roster construction. I remember TJ, you saying mentioning Adam Zagoria's quote, Florida's like Noah's Ark, two of everything.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
for Todd Golden to be able to put all these elite pieces together with that kind of depth, balance, versatility, and no one caring who gets the credit, like you don't do that as a young coach unless you've really learned from the masters such as Randy Bennett and other mentors.
Go ahead, Jason. Then I've got something on the guards of Florida. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say his biggest move as a head coach might have been the ability to get Walter Clayton not to go with Rick Pitino to St. John's and bring him back home. He grew up about an hour from Gainesville in Lake Wales, Florida. Walter Clayton did. And that move, I know he didn't have a great year. I mean, he was good last year, but boy, that move triggered all the other things and the ability to fortify the front line and the guard play.
You know what else triggered it? The 3 letters NIL. This is not a joke. An SEC school that could pay him significantly. He's a guy, and we'll give a geography lesson, Matt. You're in the West. We're here in Florida. Lake Wales, Florida is about, what would you say, Jason, maybe a 4 or 5 stoplight area in the middle of the state of Florida. It ain't
Little town USA, buddy. Little town USA.
That's where Walter Clayton is from. He's the former Florida High School Player of the Year in his classification, and Rick Pitino pried him out of Florida and got him to tiny Iona to play for a couple of years. Iona in the NCAA tournament 2 years ago with Walter Clayton. And now here he is at Florida in a Final Four making those huge shots. Hey, Matt, follow up on a couple of ridiculous shots that Clayton made, one of them falling away on the left wing and the other one where he retreated on his own out of the lane, out to the top of the key where most Gator fans were going, no, what are you doing? Yes. The three-pointer goes in. Huge shots from Walter Clayton. Big reason why Florida's still alive.
Yeah, you know, I raked John Calipari over the coals for not running Texas Tech off the three-point line late in the Sweet 16. This was not the same thing. This was Walter Clayton coming up with the circus shots, you know, remarkable shots against good defense. This was not easy, wide open catch and shoot with an Arkansas defense losing focus. These were amazing shots. You know, Texas Tech, the foul line, that's where this game got away. You missing 2 front ends. I mean, maybe one, but not 2. That's 2 0-point possessions.
Say your line about free throw shooting. What will it destroy?
Well, Bill Raftery says free throws can destroy a family, and we celebrate National Free Throw Awareness Month because friends don't let friends miss front ends.
And that's our
mantra.
Twice.
Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, Matt, to me, the 2 biggest, Clayton made big shots, but the 2 biggest shots in the game were Houck. If Houck doesn't make the 2 threes in a row, down 9, again, that changes the strategy of when Florida starts to foul and Texas Tech can milk the clock. Those 2 shots for me were the 2 biggest shots of the game.
All right.
Definitely right up there. I would just say that, we talked about Arizona, Illinois, 2005 on Thursday night. So this was a late scramble. This was Walter Clayton playing the Darren Williams role, and then another Elite 8 late scramble, Arthur Lee of Stanford in 1998. So Florida basically occupied the Stanford role against Jim Herrick and Rhode Island. So just thinking about amazing Elite 8 comebacks and late scrambles to win games that teams had no business winning. Those are the 2 that came to mind most readily.
Mike Montgomery reference from Stanford. Mike Montgomery.
Hey, I'll see that, and I'll go you a couple better. We're 31 years removed from Dan Cross and Craig Brown. I'm speaking the Jason Powers language of the 1994 Florida Gators. Dimitri Hill, St. Petersburg, Florida, 300-pound power forward Demit Hook. Lon Kruger's Florida team was the first one to make the Final Four in 1994. Billy Donovan had a barrage of them, including 2 national titles, 2006, 2007. Now Todd Golden is the latest Florida coach in 2025 to have them there. They love to scream, and it often gets obnoxious. I'm not a Florida Gator. I didn't go there. My wife's not a Florida Gator. They often scream relentlessly, Matt Zemek, it's great to be a Florida Gator. It's great. That they're singing it all weekend right now for Florida. Matt, before you are gone, touch on the two games tomorrow. Let's get a quick little Sunday preview in from you. Start with Auburn and Michigan State. A thought or two from you as Tom Izzo is going for a 9th Final Four. Bruce Pearl and Auburn, one of the prohibitive favorites to win the whole thing. Thoughts on the South Regional Final in Atlanta?
What I love about this game is that both teams are coming into this game after playing similar semifinals. They were both down 8 to 10 points, rallied in the second half. They've both been second half monsters in this tournament. So like they're coming in on the same footing and with the same tendencies and trends. So it's going to be fascinating to see if one team falls behind, will it be able to dig out of trouble against the opponent, and the opponent being a good second half team. Either way, so it can one team afford to fall behind? I don't know, but that's going to be interesting. I think the single most important player in this game, Tahad Pettiford, because you've been talking about Duke's freshmen not being rattled and playing beyond their years. Well, Pettiford has really answered the bell for Auburn in this tournament. He did so against Creighton. He did so against Michigan. I think if Tahad Pettiford plays great, Auburn very, very likely wins. And if he plays poorly, Auburn very, very likely loses. And Tom Izzo gets back to the Final Four.
It's going to be a wild game. That's the second game of two. And quickly for me, talk Houston, Texas. That's the first game up on Sunday afternoon, just after 2 Eastern time, as they will play in Indianapolis. Again, Kelvin Sampson and Houston have been one of the prohibitive Final Four favorites. They're the top team out of the Big 12. Tennessee, no slouch out of the SEC. Breaking news again, the SEC's really good. Do not be surprised if Tennessee wins this game, but your thought on Houston, Tennessee.
So Tennessee's played great. I was shocked that they dismantled Kentucky the way they did. So if Tennessee wins, I won't be surprised. But this is where my theme of ugly semifinal, great final, or great semifinal might not have enough left in the final. It sets up Houston, because Houston had to play a road game. That was a really tough environment for the Cougars, and they got through it. I think they might exhale. They might puff up their chest. They might relax, play better. And then it's hard for Tennessee to play any better than it did against Kentucky. So you get back to that dynamic similar to Alabama. Do you have two great games in you on the same weekend? And of course, Houston's great at making you play bad. So can Tennessee play another great game against Houston? So I'm definitely leaning Houston, but Tennessee's a really good team, playing really well. So I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee wins, but I'm definitely leaning to Houston here.
And if I'm not mistaken, you cover both the USC Trojans Wire website for USA Today and the UCLA Wire website. They are both in the Elite Eight, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Give me the women's breakdown. They're both there. Still, even USC without Juju Watkins has survived on. So life good still for those sites and the interest from the USA Today family of websites for the women's tournament real quick before you depart, right?
Yeah, no one's going to give USC a snowball's chance in a mushroom cloud against UConn without Juju Watkins. But to win a Sweet 16 game without her, like that just says it all about this team's toughness and heart. It's going to be a very special memory for me personally and for a lot of people who care about the program and have been following the program. Might not get to the Final Four, because UConn just might outgun them. But what a special display of perseverance. And at USC, they say fight on. Well, this team truly did fight on. That's really special. And now for UCLA, 1 year ago, which team beat UCLA in the women's NCAA tournament? It was Kim Mulkey and LSU. So guess who UCLA has to play to reach the program's first ever women's Final Four? It's Kim Mulkey and LSU. So it is pure Hollywood with that regional final in Spokane, high noon. From a team that's near Hollywood, UCLA and Lauren Betts, the big player in the middle, about 6'5", very athletic. They got a couple of other good players too. UCLA's never been in the women's Final Four. They've been in 21 minutes.
That's hard to believe. Wow.
That's a stat. Matt Zemek has all the stats. Jason, we got to let Matt Zemek run here while we have a moment. My friend, great stuff. We look forward to having you back on Sunday night. We will know the Final Four tomorrow night. Let's have you back tomorrow night. Keep up the great coverage on the USA Today family of sites, collegewire.com, etc. Yes, chomp chomp. I thought you were going to say a snowball's chance in Lake Wales, Florida in July, where it's slightly hot every summer in the middle of the state of Florida. Matt Zemek, have a good night. Thank you, my friend. See you later. There he goes. And Jason Powers, we will segue to our man Ari Russell, live from the Rock, from the Prudential Center. And he's in Newark, New Jersey, where he's watched the Duke Blue Devils go to the Final Four.
Courtside.
18th time. Ari's courtside right there inside the Prudential Center after everything is over. All right, welcome on the live show. Your impressions of what you saw. We've been talking for the last 45 minutes about Duke. Talk about him some more and what you saw.
Well, they executed the game plan as well as you possibly could. Obviously, putting pressure, keeping them, the Alabama Crimson Tide off of transition offense, and they did just that. They weren't able to get many buckets in transition. Obviously, started using their length and strength, as I like to say, on the perimeter, making it very difficult to get any open looks. Perfect game plan. They scouted Alabama, and they executed that scouted plan as well as you possibly can. And then also on the offensive side, using their size and their strength, again, to be able to get into the lane a lot. Knipple, a really impressive player. You saw why tonight he's a top 10 potential pick in the NBA draft. That guy had an unbelievable game. He's 6'7", but he's also built like a brick, you-know-what. And between, him and Sion James, those two guys are really, they're kind of built like defensive ends in the NFL. But they got great handle and athleticism. So they really showed out tonight, even though Cooper Flag may have not have had his best game as a college player. Those other guys got involved, and we see how talented this Duke team really is.
Again, Ari is with us at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. It's a little difficult to hear you. We can hear you if you can adjust your audio. We're doing this live on the fly. If you can adjust your audio for a second, that may help things. I know there's probably some interference, too, in and around you with what you're doing, and you're trying to hear us. We do this live, Jason Powers, on the fly on college basketball, coast to coast, and all the platforms. Look at the walk and talk from my man Ari Russell, who's been hustling in and out of the Duke locker room. Can you hear us a little better right now? And let's see if we can hear you a little better right now. We heard most of what you were saying there a couple of moments ago. Let's try it again and pick it up on Knipple and Flag and Malawach. They don't play like freshmen, Ari. That's the reality.
Can you hear me better now?
We can hear you better. Try again on the audio. Walking the bowels of the Prudential Center in Newark. You're like in your familiar spot from the other night. What about the Duke players that are freshmen that don't play like freshmen? That's the point that I've been making throughout the night. You got something on that? We'll see if he's able to hear us. It's a live show.
I can hear you.
Able to hear us. All right, go for it. Try again on the Duke. I am asking about the Duke freshmen and how they don't play like freshmen. We can hear you. Go for it. Go ahead.
You can hear me now? Okay, much better.
Yeah.
So basically, they don't play like freshmen, as you said. They play like sophomores or juniors that played a lot of basketball. They're very in sync. They play with a tremendous amount of poise and focus. This is a very well-coached team as well. John Chai, I'm very impressed that he was able to put it together. This is a great class. Again, they probably have perhaps 3 lottery picks potentially on this team, all freshmen. But they got other guys as well. Obviously, you've got Proctor, who's been has a lot of experience as well, and it's at Duke. You've got guys like Sion James, who has experience elsewhere, but has a lot of minutes that he's logged at this level as well. He's a graduate transfer, and that guy. So you've got kind of that great mix of experience at key positions, and then you've got obviously the 3 superstar freshmen in Knipple and Flag and the center big guy. So
Malawach, right?
And Malawach, yeah. So it's a great combination. Well coached team, very disciplined, and tonight we saw the ability to execute a game plan that they set out for, and it was a remarkable win. I wasn't expecting it to be that dominant of a win, but they really took the wind out of the sails early on and pretty much led this this thing from tip to the buzzer. And it didn't really ever seem like it was ever in question. I don't know from what you guys watched, but from inside the arena, it didn't feel that there was any kind of press. The Arizona game, I felt like put a lot more pressure on Duke than the game tonight against Bama.
Yeah, they were awesome. Jason, get a quick question in for Ari because we got to let him go as well. He's trying to get into the locker room to talk to a couple of Duke players in a couple of moments. Jason, you got something real quick?
Yeah, just talk about, again, we mentioned Shire. What a great job he did putting the game plan together. His coaching staff, a bunch of Duke guys. You got Chris Carwell there. Just talk about that. And he built his roster differently. Everybody else around the country's loading up in the transfer portal. He kind of went a different route with freshmen. Just talk about that dynamic of roster compilation.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Again, having like a key guy like Proctor, who is the bridge, has a lot of experience at this level. I think he plays a huge role in being able to do that. But these guys are that they brought in are kind of built differently than most freshmen. Flag is obviously built different. It's why he's a pick. But I was really impressed, to be honest with you, with Knippel's game, and I've been impressed with him since the beginning of the tournament, even prior to that and during ACC play. But the last couple of games, he's showing me a tremendous amount of ability, skill, and poise, and on both ends of the ball, being committed and getting in the hustle. So there's a character that this team has that I think it doesn't matter if they're freshmen, and I think that John Shire, remember John Shire? He was a very physical. He was a very active player who did a lot of hustle. Kind of remember the Steve Wojciechowski? He's kind of like that next generation of Steve. Slapping the floor. He was that kind of intensity. And you see these guys. You see like Knippel and Flag have that type of intensity on this team. And just because they're freshmen, it doesn't matter. They're coming in with that type of energy. And I think it's part of the testament to the coaching, but also for these young men out here as well, for them to be able to pick it up and play focused in that type of energy. You got to give credit to these young guys because they really bring it.
Ari Russell's bringing it. You got to go in a moment because I know you want to get in the locker room. We're trying to get your internet to hold up too in Newark at the Prudential Center. Give a quick thought on Auburn-Michigan State. The winner of that game is going to play coming up here in the Final Four. Houston, Tennessee in the other game. Who do you like the chalk? You like the 2 1 seeds? Who's got the better chance at maybe beating one of the 1 seeds? Quick thought on Sunday, Ari.
Yeah, I picked Michigan State in this bracket, but the more I've watched them and the more I've watched Auburn.
So I think that this is a close one. This is one I'm still going to stick with Michigan State. I just think that they have this grittiness to them. They've got a lot of guys they can bring off the bench, and they've got Jace Richardson, who I think has been playing, had a great. I mean, he was shot like 80% against in the last game that they played
against Ole Miss. Yeah,
against Ole Miss, he scored. He was like 6 for 8 or something. It was as efficient as it was coming off a game where he didn't hit anything. So that's going to be good. And then so I think that Auburn obviously has the advantage in the paint, but you never can discount the physicality that Izzo's teams have, the mental toughness that Izzo teams have at this point of the year. So I'm still going to lean towards Michigan State and kind of stay true to my bracket. But again, if you're trying to make money, don't come to me and ask for any type of
Houston, Tennessee, chalk, or is it maybe the SEC getting another team in the Final Four?
Everyone says that it's like the Superman meme, that Spider-Man meme rather, where they're pointing at each other, the 2 Spider-Men. Like, they are kind of mirror images of each other to a degree. I think and Vince was mentioning this the other day. Vince Ferraro was mentioning this the other night, last night. I just think Tennessee is a little bit more offensively competent per se. They've got more weapons offensively, but it's just really difficult for me to go against Kelvin Sampson at this point. I just think that this particular team, they've won so many games in a row. I think they can weather enough of the storm and figure it out to make enough stops for Tennessee. To make stops against Tennessee. So I'm still going to stick with Houston, who is also in my bracket. I have them going to the Final Four, and this matchup in particular was one that I always had an eye on. But I just think I'm going to go with Kelvin Sampson on this one, just because I think that he'll draw something up, and we saw that at the end of the day, if it's one possession game, what a beautiful play call that they made.
Yep.
It.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Kelvin Sampson on this one. I think that this is a great matchup, and a great kind of, just looking at it on paper and what we've seen from both of these teams, very well played and a lot of experience between the two of them. It should be a fun one, but I'm going to stick with H-Town on this one.
All right, they are having the press conferences right now, and I know you're trying to get in the locker room for Duke and the win. Keep hustling, Ari Russell. We'll check back in with you.
Great work.
You will be with us as well in San Antonio, where we already know that Duke and Florida are. 2 more participants coming out of Auburn, Michigan State, Houston, Tennessee. Great work. Keep it up. Keep it up,
yes,
Ari
sir.
Russell. Keep hustling.
All right, man. You guys.
We'll see you later. There he is on college basketball, coast to coast. He's making every effort. And again, the Duke guys are on the podium right now with John Shire talking to the media, and the locker room may be open here in a few moments for Ari to get some interviews. He's got it up on the YouTube channel, those interviews. He talked to Tyrese Proctor the other night after the win over Arizona. Jason, for the audience that's with us, we'll stay here for a few more moments. Say something again about Duke with just they look the part. And it's easy to say right now, is it something where they've lost one game to Clemson in literally like 4 months, going back to December? They look the part of the national champion. I don't know, out of Auburn, Michigan State, Houston, Tennessee, Florida, who beats them. I really don't at this point.
Yeah, I think Florida has the best chance because they've got bigs and they've got competent guards. I think Florida would have to win a higher scoring game against them, but I think Florida has enough firepower that they can match them. And I think they got enough beef on the inside that they could help neutralize Malawatch a little bit and Flag a little bit. So to me, it's Florida Duke in the final. Again, I think that's going to be your matchup on Monday night when you're there next Monday night. But, as you know, in this tournament, one turned ankle, couple quick whistles by the officials, and Flag's got 2 fouls, and you never know. 2 quick fouls on Flag, you never know.
I would say 1 to 9, Duke is the most 1 to 9 players. First player, Flag, and all the way to the 9th player, probably. Duke's the most talented, most impressive team. Auburn might be right there with them 1 to 9.
Yep.
All right. Auburn may not even get the chance to play them, though. Stay tuned. I'm with Ari. I think Michigan State very much. I'm staying true to my bracket. I think Michigan State can win this game on Sunday. Stay tuned. I don't think Houston has the 1 to 9 to beat them.
I don't either.
1 to 9 players. I don't think Tennessee has the 1 to 9.
I agree.
So stay tuned on Duke. We'll stay here for a couple more moments. Let's tell you about another one of our sponsors. That is our friends at Go Sleeves and the kinesiology technology with Go Sleeves. Jason Powers, they're proud sponsors of our March Madness and Final Four coverage on college basketball coast to coast. You need to get these kinesiology knee sleeve, elbow sleeve, calf sleeves. Why? Because it increases the blood flow. What does that do? It helps you with recovery time. It helps you with inflammation and managing your pain. If you are a weekend warrior, a biker, a runner, a pickleball player, Jason, pickleball is so huge for the knees and the elbows. We're seeing on the video screen, if you can't see us, if you're somebody that works out, biking, running, tennis, golf, for the knees, for the elbow, it's go time with Go Sleeves. They are proud sponsors, these kinesiology technology sleeves. They are tremendous with Go Sleeves, and we've even got a promo code for you. Use my promo code TJ for a discount. GoSleeves.com/TJ for a discount for the elbow or the knee sleeve or the calf sleeve. They got some other great technology coming with.
If you're a sports official,
like you are.
It helps a lot.
Utilize it for the knees. If you're golfing, playing tennis, pickleball for the elbows, for the calves, whatever the case is. And they've got a great a sleeve coming up now for the hamstrings as well as the back. They do all kinds of different stuff with an ankle sleeve that's coming out later this year. GoSleeves.com. It is go time with Go Sleeves, and they are proud sponsors here with us. I didn't get your thought on Houston, Tennessee. Look ahead to Sunday for me for just a moment on Houston, Tennessee after Houston's last-second win over Purdue, and now Tennessee beats Kentucky to reach their second Elite Eight in a row. Tennessee's never been in the Final Four. Houston looking to get back there for the 7th time as a program. Thoughts, Jason?
I think Matt Zemek made the point about learning from last year, and Tennessee was at this point last year, lost a heartbreaker, I believe, to Purdue. Was it the Elite Eight last year to Purdue?
Correct.
I believe.
Correct.
I think this is a team that's going to figure out a way. They got older players. They got Ziegler's been there forever. Lanier's a really good player. Meshack. They've got guys that have been there from last year and felt the heartbreak. I think this is Tennessee's year. Rick Barnes. I think they got more guys that can score 15 plus than Houston does, and I think Zakai Ziegler is gonna direct that offense. I think he's gonna be the difference maker. He won't score. He may not score a ton, but distributing the ball, getting the right guys, the right shots. I think in a close one, I like Tennessee and Rick Barnes to get to the Final Four for our guy Vince Ferrara too.
And how about for the Houston Cougars having to play in that hostile situation with Purdue, and they come through it? Again, what kind of atmosphere is going to be there? It's configured Tennessee crowd. Probably, it's configured for 35,000 people. They were hoping, they won't admit this, to have Kentucky and or Purdue with all the tickets be in the Sunday regional final in the Midwest Regional. Neither one of them are there. How many Tennessee fans got there? Houston travels a little. How wild is it going to be, though, if the Cougars get this win and they're only about 90 minutes, depending on how fast you drive from San Antonio? So Houston to come to San Antonio as a fan base for the Final Four. Stay tuned on that. By the way, we have something else on college basketball coast to coast. Let's see if I can make this happen through the technology on the video screen. I mean, Jason, as you know, I'm working about 18 different things while we do this live, producing the show, the graphics you see, whatever. Our colleague, Adam Zagoria, did survive a near miss in the first half of the Duke win over Alabama tonight. Let's see if I can successfully show this right now here as part of college basketball coast to coast.
There you go.
They should be able to see on the screen live with us that's Adam Zagoria right there with Con Knipple coming over the scorer's table and into the media area right by official Roger Ayers earlier tonight. Adam's laptop right in front of him did survive with Knipple in his lap. That's Adam's head right above the guy, outstretched light blue sleeve, long sleeve shirt. That's Adam's head right there. Knipple almost in his lap.
Our guy.
So Adam did survive tonight. We do confirm that on college basketball coast to coast. He'll be back with us. We'll see if we can get him on tomorrow. He's been working post-game duties for NJ.com. And the Duke win tonight. Man, that Auburn-Michigan State game is going to be something else in the late game.
Home court advantage. How much will that be a factor? Because we saw the other night when they went on that huge run, Auburn, that crowd was blowing up, and that arena was on fire when they made that big run midway through the second half.
20-2 run, crowd in the game, in that comeback win over
Avalanche.
Michigan. Yes,
Avalanche.
So they will feed off the crowd, but I know Izzo's got some youth, but I love the toughness of Michigan State.
I do.
Stay tuned for that.
Watch this matchup. Denver Jones on Jace Richardson. Denver Jones is their defensive stopper. Richardson's their offensive guy, their three-point shooter. Look for that matchup. And I don't think Janai Broom's going to let Auburn lose tomorrow. You've mentioned Cooper Flagg not letting Duke lose. I don't think Janai Broom's letting Auburn lose tomorrow in that building against a front line that's a little vulnerable for Michigan State. I think Janai Broom's the difference.
Listen, we've had a busy show. Thanks to TC Martin from the TC Martin Show out in Las Vegas. TC was on scene in San Francisco in Northern California for the Florida win over Texas Tech, who was valiant, but Florida comes roaring back. I mean, that was all-time stuff in the final 3 minutes to be 9 points down and come back and win that game. So Florida back in the Final Four. Duke back in the Final Four with a win tonight over Alabama. Very impressive. 2 more spots on the line tomorrow. Auburn, Michigan State, Houston, Tennessee. Thanks to TC Martin for being with us. Matt Zemek of USA Today's College Wire. Ari Russell hustling for us on college basketball coast to coast at the East Regional in Newark. Why don't we do this again tomorrow in about 16 hours? When it's all said and done, maybe 17 hours, about 7 or 8 Eastern time. Why don't we come back and we'll know the final two pieces on college basketball coast to coast of the Final Four. Sound good?
Remember, folks, it's earlier start times tomorrow, 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. So earlier in the day, CBS, both games on CBS. Yep. So don't forget, 2 o'clock start time tomorrow.
Not nighttime games. Houston, Tennessee up first in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. And then the Atlanta Hawks Arena, State Farm Arena, is where Auburn and Michigan State will play. We've only had one other Final Four where all the number one seeds made it since the field expanded to 64, now 68 teams. That was 2008. Where, Jason Powers? Where? San Antonio is where the four number ones made it that year. That was North Carolina, Kansas, my Memphis Tigers, and UCLA. Two number ones are there now with Florida and Duke. Can Auburn and Houston join them tomorrow? Stay tuned.
And SEC could tie the Big East from 1985 with 3 out of 4 if Tennessee were to get it done and Auburn gets it done.
Let's see. Listen, my friend, great stuff. Thank you. You hung with me for a full hour
you got
tonight.
It.
Let's do it tomorrow night, shall we, when we know the final two pieces. Thank you, Jason Powers.
Let's go.
We thank you for watching on all the platforms. If you're just listening on the TuneIn streaming feed on the College Basketball Coast to Coast channel in podcast form, thank you for finding us. Find the video show on YouTube, all the video content on Facebook, on Twitter. We're done for tonight. Duke and Florida in. 2 more teams join them Sunday. We'll be here to talk about it Sunday night on College Basketball Coast to Coast.